Harry's wife. The final podcast. Oh, the relief. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Yes, RC Wipes appeared with what many are hoping and praying is the final podcast that was put forward by Harry's wife. That the utter anodyne bilge that she has spewed out over the last few weeks, whilst entertaining in a cringeworthy way, and of course providing us with plenty of opportunities to analyse her narcissism, appears to have come to an end, and there was no mention of Series 2. I, of course, have provided you with my observations about it, but it is always necessary to let you know what a serious journalist thinks about it. And to that end, of course, we turn to Hilary Rose of The Times with her pithy and acerbic observations about the content of the podcast. She writes as follows. Last week, Harry's wife promised that it was the penultimate episode of her podcast, and I managed my expectations. Was that the truth or her truth? Shortly after 10 a.m. today, manifesting, a cultural shift, manifested onto my screen, and it was billed as the finale. She was telling the truth, and that's a beautiful thing. As an aside, as I've explained to you before, the narcissist can use the truth as you understand it to be if it coincides with achieving the prime aims. Watch my video, The Truth, the Half-Truth, and Nowhere Near the Truth. Returning to Hilary Rose. Today, I learned that Harry's wife is fascinated by how our brains are wired. She keeps a big pile of clever bucks by her bed. Triangulation by object, facade management of being clever, including one which posited the concept of neuroplasticity, which my observation is rather ironic because there's no neuroplasticity with regard to her narcissism. It's fixed. And these bucks made her think about herself, as you'd expect. She broadens the conversation to include other residents of Monty Shit Show. Her husband told her that if we want to shift how we think about gender, then we have to actively include men in the conversation. And everything I have ever read about Prince Harry makes me certain he said that. Oh, the sarcasm is dripping. Just as an aside, when I looked through the transcript of this latest pod crap, it was interesting to see that at one point Harry's wife actually states, "So I thought about it being a good idea," or words to that effect, that we have men involved in the conversation. And then a few paragraphs later, it turns into, "It was my husband's idea." Once again demonstrating the compartmentalization of her narcissism, that she contradicts herself within a matter of paragraphs. This, of course, is something that we have come to expect as a consequence of the way that her particular brand of narcissism functions. Returning to the article, Harry's wife promises chats with thoughtful men, so probably not Harry. The important thing to know about the immensely talented filmmaker Judd Apatow is that his wife once made Harry's wife feel seen. Again, demonstrating how she mentions a guest but has to bring it back to her. And then she proceeds to troll her first guest, the talk show host Andy Cohen, at length. Why? Because he didn't remember meeting her way back when she was a nobody and he was a somebody. And which feminist powerhouse married a prince and is laughing now, huh, Andy? And of course, this shows the doofus nature of Harry's wife, that she simply can't see the way that she contradicts herself and is such a massive hypocrite, that she holds herself out as the strong, independent, empowered feminist who's only got where she's got to as a consequence of being somebody's wife. "I didn't want to embarrass him," she adds. "It was just funny to try to remember how things were." And over at Kensington Palace, the Sussex Survivors Club thought, yes, that must be it, laughing, not trolling. Here is what I've learned from listening to 4,112 hours of Harry's wife's voice, a number I plucked from the air and which in this context is as true as any other, although the exact figure is more like 13 hours. 1. Difficult women are not difficult at all. They are warm, wonderful human beings. And the problem is you. That, of course, is demonstrative of her narcissism, which never lets her take accountability for her failings and always blame shifts onto somebody else. Number 2. Sitting and standing are interchangeable concepts. Also, sitting is not necessarily about chairs. For example, you can and should stand in your knowing and stand in your authority. However, you can also sit in your knowing, sit in your authority, and sit in your truth. I would also add to that, Hilary, you can sit in your authenticity, apparently. Number 3. Life isn't about earning a living and having a laugh. It is a serious business. So ask yourself this. Are you living in your full self? At any point this week, did you feel the strength that comes from embracing humanity? And did you keep that sense of self while holding up the mantle of what comes with being a parent? Or did you think, bugger it, park the little blighters in front of an iPad and lock yourself in the bathroom? Number 4. Plato was sexist and also wrong about wombs. The goddess Artemis less so. 5. Question. When is the truth not the truth? Answer. When someone else is saying it and you disagree. Number 6. It is dangerous when a person's self-awareness is not trusted, unless you're accused of bullying them, in which case their self-awareness is wrong. Number 7. Who said the following? There is a certain stress that comes of not being believed. Was it A, Harry's wife, B, the Sussex Survivors Club, C, a sympathetic Court of Appeal judge after Harry's wife admitted that her sworn statement might not have been the truth or the whole truth, but it was definitely her truth? The correct answer is A. Number 8. If anyone asks, are you being a person in the world in the most nuanced and real way, the correct answer is not what the fuck. Number 9. If someone asks Harry's wife, how are you? She replies, delightful. She did. She really did. I swear it. Number 10. Translate the following into English, or just state how it makes you feel, because that's the main thing. I can't function today without being present. Some days I have complete clarity, and the next day I feel different. Beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. 11. There are parental tentacles of tradition, and it seems reasonable to assume that they are out to get you. 12. You have layers that thrive within you as you strive to become a fully fledged human being. Do not mistake this for indigestion. 13. Put the following in the correct order. Candid, illuminating, enlightening, stirring, in-depth, vulnerable, energizing, dynamic, raw, refreshing. Or put them in the blender and blitz until they form a podcast. 14. Women, are you having authentic, complicated, complex, and dynamic experiences? Are you heard and understood? You should be. 15. Men, shut up. 16. Strong back, soft front. Is it A, a haircut, B, a new species of lizard, C, or the solution to male-female misunderstanding? The correct answer is C. 17. Grade the following in terms of how much it fries your brain, and bear in mind that it is a question Harry's wife poses to one of her guests at the end of a long and more usually incomprehensible ramble. What do you think ends up being more additive, I guess? Having men more leeway, just to be more expressive and emotional, and perhaps more of themselves than they internalize, or really creating more space for women to be accepted as they are? Or is it both? Word salad. And then, in little more than the time it takes to reach Mars, the last podcast is over. Harry's wife tells us that it's been funny and eye-opening. We reach the inescapable conclusion that she is wonderful, and she explains what alchemy is, presumably having read all those clever sciencey books by her bed. You start with a dense piece of material or metal, she explains, and it can be churned and put under so much pressure that you can't imagine how it's going to survive. But when it comes out the other side, she says, leaning into the mic, it's gold. Actual gold. And my mouth opens in a silent scream. Harry's wife's conclusion is that her podcast has made her feel seen, and seeing as she spent 40-odd years jumping up and down, trying to catch our attention, this is reassuring. She leaves us with one final thought about the courage that it takes to step out and speak up, even when it puts everything on the line. And possibly she means when you have to swap a free palace for a mortgaged one. And can you hear her, Kate, you poor, happily married Stepford wife and future queen? As a tribute to the overall quality of these podcasts, I'd like to give the last word to Noddy Holder. So here it is, Merry Christmas. Everybody's having fun, he sang. Look to the future now. It's only just begun. The future is indeed now, and I have been on a journey. Be brave in your audacity. I would like to tell Harry's wife, and compassionate in your bullying which you deny. Embrace your dimensions, except maybe the shouty one, which sends emails at 5 a.m. Rescue more chickens, and sit in your truth. And if telling the truth doesn't get enough attention, live your best lie. As always, a fantastic summary of Harry's wife, demonstrating the ridiculousness of her podcrap and the way that it is seen by serious journalists. Let's have a quick dip below the line to see what people think. Chris Miller writes, this should come with a health warning. For every hour you listen to a Harry's Wife podcast, your IQ reduces by 10 points. Fortunately, nobody has ever been able to listen to one for more than 10 minutes. Congratulations to Hillary on making it all the way through. Whatever the Times is paying you, it's not enough. Catherine Simpson writes, fabulous Hillary, I raise a glass to you, but the real question everyone wants to know the answer to now is the Times going to make you review their Netflix car crash? Big Nick 888, Hillary, it's all over. You can now rest and allow this valuable information to really sink in. If I find you rocking gently on a park bench, I'll come over and give you a cuddle. You are our hero. Your mum, wonderful skewering of the cloth-brained charlatan. Thank you. Guy Broadfoot, that's a bit harsh. A charlatan is someone pretending to be what they are not. They are not pretending to be cloth-brained. Mr. Walter Ford, thank you for enjoying those hours of podcasts and translating or attempting to translate the untranslatable into English. Surely some kind of award must be in prospect. John's DW, despite the upcoming book and documentary, I can't help feeling everyone is getting bored with them. Xerxes, unsurprisingly she interviewed American comic Trevor Noah for her latest podcast, a man who accused the British public of racism at the time of Harry's wife's marriage and has since attacked the monarchy and King Charles. His latest false diatribe is that Rishi Sunak, being Indian, his words, faced a racial backlash in the UK when he was elected Prime Minister. Catherine writes, oh yes, I remember that. One guy phoned up LBC, which equals a backlash and means we're all racist, whereas in reality, almost everyone was relieved to see Rishi replace the fiscally incontinent Liz Truss. Alan XX, I skipped the podcast and enjoyed these articles instead. Xerxes, I have listened to Harry's wife's podcast and can honestly say that banality is at the heart of everything she says. All her insights are from the past, constantly referencing her childhood and school days. In fact, I believe she is somewhat trapped in the 90s. As is Harry, who seems to have suffered arrested development from the time of his mother's tragic death in the late 1990s. Intellectually, Harry's wife is completely vacant, without a single original thought, although she does not hesitate to plagiarize. These podcasts, at the cost to Spotify at around $1.5 million per episode, clearly demonstrate she has been overestimated and overpaid. Very fair observation, which of course, without mentioning it, picks up various aspects of her narcissism. The bowler's holding, she is deeply, deeply shallow. South Yorkshire Babe. Well, my darling wife, you finished the podcast. Well done, you little heroine, sitting in your authenticity all that time without complaint. I've warned you about patronising me, Harry, as I warned your family, and look what happened to them. Dad's king, stepmom's queen, bro is Prince of Wales, and sis-in-law is Princess of Wales. But are they authentic? Do they sit or stand in their authority? Do they live their full life? But ouch, my little pepperpot. I've been worrying about being here and doing nothing. Harry, I warned you about trying to think for yourself. You won't be included in the gender conversation if you try that malarkey. But we only talk to rich people who we hardly know. Sounds of palm roots being slapped. Graham Cheeseman, pardon me, I think I just authenticated. Zydor, final podcast, there is a God after all. Go home, Harry's wife, and look after the kids. You are a tedious non-event. Runner beans are yelling. Elfie Dars, how could anyone in the family put up with this, even for the short period of time she stayed in the United Kingdom? Anne Caroline Mourner, I am confident the former Harry's wife can make gold. At least she knows how to dig for gold. Jacob Richter, superb derision of a ridiculous person. Philly Hall, I read in the HuffPost that the Harry's wife had dropped a pod, so thought joy. Hillary Day, HuffPost app shut down, couldn't load today's Times fast enough. More joy. HR is front page, as she should be. But the Harry's wife has dropped the last pod. What to do now? No more Hillary reviews, no more joy. Face like boot, consider tweeting her royal Harry's wifeness, begging as she continues spewing her balmy word salad, simply to ensure we get our weekly dose of Hillary. And a sugar pops up. Mrs. Ann Stevenson, the sad Harry's wife haters are out here in full force as usual, attacking her. It's very obvious why. Racism is thriving here. And, of course, all of the comments that I've read to you are all about what? How useless she is at the podcast. Nothing to do with her race, but along comes a dim-witted sugar. Patella replies to this, it hasn't crossed your mind that there might be any other possible reason why someone would make a negative comment about the build she spouts? John Dover replies, I think that anyone who saw the Oprah Winfrey interview was staggered at the aggression shown and the unsubstantiated accusations made to a family who had been so welcoming. The Prince of Wales, acting in loco parentis at the wedding, could not have been more caring or solicitous of the bride and her mother, and despite his son making such a forceful statement about his wish to be financially independent, complaining bitterly about having been cut off without a penny. In fact, he had been given a sum, such as none of us could expect to see. I suggest that the antipathy is the reaction to the narcissistic and egotistical behaviour allied to the misinformation and general denigration of the royal family, with no appreciation how to behave appropriately if one uses a title that indicates one is part of that family. To identify this as racist appears to me to be ludicrous and completely unjustified. Summing it up rather neatly. And it shows that now that this series is over, Hillary Rose once again dissects it brilliantly, showing it for the crap that it is. And the educated individuals in the comments section all recognise that the only purpose it serves is to be taken apart by Hillary Rose and others in an entertaining fashion, because they see her for what she is: empty, dull, and self-obsessed. All traits of the mid-range narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.